Thank you, Denver. And I think looking at that photo before, it wasn't an accident. I wore the same shirt. I only have one. So it just so happens it made me look a bit good with a bit of Photoshop. We've got a great graphics team at the WACA. So when Denver and Christy approached me to come and speak at this forum, I had to think a little bit about the journey we've been on at the WACA and some of the challenges we've had and also some of the successes. I want to thank Kira and Rob for their presentations before, because a couple of things really resonated with me. Kiri talking about asset-based community development, local solutions for local problems. How do you enable people within your community, within your organisation, within your particular group to capitalise on the resources and the skills and experiences that each of you have to enable you to solve challenges and problems that you're facing? They're not going to be the same as the club up the road. They're not going to be the same as the state organisation that's implementing the policies and setting the direction for the sport. And Rob talking about the makeup of people in the room, the deliverers, the supporters, the people that are setting strategies and providing the resources to help clubs grow their sport, grow their connection to community. I want you to have a bit of a think, for those of you that have come from a sporting club, about the first time that you went down. You might have been a kid, might be as an adult. What was that experience like? Did you walk down, drop off, not much idea about what you're doing there, get roped into an activity, put out on the field, a couple of drills? Did someone come up to you, welcome you to the club, bring you in, tell you about what they're about, involve you in activity, explain what you're doing? For me, coming from parents born overseas, coming to Australia, mine was cricket. How do we make this kid Australian? How do we find the best way to make him fit in and be involved with his community? So that was down to the local cricket club. In my whites, in my hat. Wasn't the best experience. Sorry, Chris. Did no idea what was going on. And I think for the first 3 weeks, I spent most of my time walking from one side of the boundary to the other side of the boundary. Didn't have a bat, didn't have a bowl, didn't really enjoy it, didn't make a lot of friends. Thankfully, things have changed a little bit. But for me, my journey through sport was having the opportunity to work overseas, use my experience in community development and really look at what sport provides for people, that sense of belonging, that sense of connection to community, that sense of value that comes from involvement with your peers, with your colleagues, with your friendship group. There we go. So for us at the WACA, we've been on a journey probably for the last 3 or 4 years, really looking at how do we provide opportunities for people to play. And it's based on the philosophy that everyone should have the opportunity to engage in our sport. Denver went through some of the census results earlier, talking about the makeup of our population in Western Australia. On your right-hand side, 65% is the general participation rate of people in organised sport in WA. On your left-hand side is the participation rates for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander groups, multicultural groups, and people with a disability. At the WACA, we've got a dedicated community engagement team that is charged with supporting our department, supporting our staff, to make sure that the clubs we work with, the associations that we work with, are setting themselves up to be a place that welcomes people no matter what their background, gender, level of ability. The challenge for us is what kind of support we provide to those clubs. How do we move from our activities in schools, where we have a massive footprint, a massive involvement and a massive range of programs that we offer, how do we get kids from those experiences into a community club, and how do we support a community club to be set up to welcome those participants? Up here is our participation results from the previous season. I'm sure you would have seen the headlines, massive growth across Australian cricket, number one participation sport across the country. In WA, we had some massive increases in participation, particularly in our diversity areas. So for us, that's female participation, Aboriginal participation, multicultural participation, and participation of people with disability. What you'll also see there is the majority of those participants are in the school space. For us, the challenge and the opportunity really lies in those club numbers and how we provide opportunities, how we work with our stakeholders, work with other sports, with local government to transition kids out of a really good school experience into a really positive club experience with a club that knows what they're about, is connected to their community, has an understanding of the people around them and an understanding of the skills, the benefits and the opportunities that that brings. And for us, it starts with leadership. For a long time, sports, including cricket, have looked at those low engagement groups, those low participation groups, and targeted programs towards them. So we'd get the kit bags down, we'd pay a staff member to go down to a particular area and run a program. And we'd tick that off and go, that's fantastic, our participation's gone up. That wasn't enough for us. And that's what led to the evolution of how we operate, which I'll talk about a little bit more. If it goes. To be leaders in Australian sport, so not just in cricket, if we're going to be genuine in how we engage with low participation groups, in how we promote inclusion and diversity across community cricket clubs and organisations, we have to set an example and we have to ensure that every one of our staff members understands our role as a peak body, understands our role as a state sporting association in encouraging clubs and supporting clubs to be that accessible community organisation, to be that place where people are valued for the skills that they have, and to be that place that celebrates the fact that they have that connection to the community around them. So for us, it's not just about having staff that can go and run targeted programs. It's not about having a presence in schools. It's about ensuring that our staff members, particularly the ones that work in the game development area and the state sporting associations that are here in the room, and local government would have an understanding of how our staff from various sports operate in the community to support and develop their clubs. For us, it's about ensuring that every one of those staff members understands how to embrace inclusion and diversity as part of their role, how to ensure that the club development tools that we're implementing, Top Club, Top Plan, Sport for All workshops, actually incorporate an understanding of inclusion and diversity as opposed to coming in with another workshop alongside it or coming along with another resource for a club. We want to make sure that it's one conversation. Internally at the WACA, we find that the more diverse our workforce, the more diverse our people, the more that our staff are thinking about inclusion and diversity as part of a holistic plan for their clubs, as part of a holistic process for developing our sport. It actually has real tangible benefits within departments, within our organisation, in the way our staff think, in the way our staff approach problem solving, in the way our staff approach stakeholder relationships, in the way that they approach their work. And some of the examples I put up there are a direct result of that. So up in the top, you'll see our Aboriginal design uniforms for the Scorchers BBL game that was held in Alice Springs between the Scorchers and the Adelaide Strikers. That came as a result of many years of work, but also an understanding within our organisation of the role we play as a peak sporting body in developing Aboriginal cricket. It came as a result of an evolution of the governance of the game within the Aboriginal community, how we engage with Aboriginal participants, with Aboriginal leaders, and the development of a new advisory committee that actually sits as a subcommittee of the WACA board. It gives it legitimacy, it gives it authority. Through that process, we're able to actually take a leadership role in the development of this game. And the end result is a uniform. It's a shirt. It's not an understanding of the process that goes behind that. The employment of the only Aboriginal engagement specialist in the country that has a dedicated position within our sport to drive the participation of Aboriginal cricketers, to drive the development of the game as part of a holistic plan for WA cricket. In the bottom corner, Kyron, you'll see athletes from our 3 National Cricket Inclusion Championship teams: intellectual disability, blind and vision impaired and deaf and hard of hearing. Again, a really simple gesture for us as a sport to have acknowledgement at the innings break of the BBL semi-final at the New Perth Stadium, to acknowledge the achievements of our state athletes, and they are state athletes representing WA at a national championships. Female cricket pathway as a sport that traditionally is not seen as a sport for women and girls. We've got a lofty ambition across Australian cricket, and particularly at the WACA, that we want to be the #1 sport of choice for women and girls at the end of our next strategic plan. Again, we do that by establishing a leadership role within our sport to support clubs and associations, not dictate a policy from above, but actually work with our clubs, work with our associations to understand how they can provide a space where girls want to play, girls want to be involved in the sport. And the more we've gone down that journey with our Community Junior Cricket Council, which is the sort of the peak body for junior cricket, the more it becomes evident that it's just junior sport, it's just junior cricket. It's not about boys cricket, it's not about girls cricket. The opportunity that exists with a segment of the population that is 52% of the total population of Australia nationally, but about 2.5% of the cricket population, is a bit of a no-brainer for clubs that are looking for more players, more volunteers, more people to fill committee positions, more connection with their community. Those progressive clubs that want to reflect the place in which they sit. They want to reflect the community around them. They want people involved. And on your right-hand side is a Culture Cup, which is a program that's come out of our multicultural portfolio, but again has been led by the people within that community. The various community groups that are running cricket competitions around the metro area, being able to work with them in a community-driven process, asking them what do they want, what would bring them together to form a competition and allow us to showcase the diversity of our sport. And it actually came about from a staff member of mine who has been passionate and working in this space for a long time. In 2012, I think it was, when our general manager went on leave, Alan Singer, who's sitting in the room here, decided it'd be a good idea to get a community programs officer. WACA hadn't had one of those before, so thought it'd be a good idea that the WACA should be involved in trying to grow the game and look at diverse segments of our community. But this staff member and I were at a practice game that the WACA held. I think it was maybe my first week when India were touring here. And practice games generally don't draw a big crowd. There might be a couple of hundred people there, a couple of members sitting in the stands. I think there was 15,000 people that came for this practice game. The place was completely overwhelmed. The catering staff had no idea what to do. Mick and Michael on the gate had no idea how to filter all these people in. But what it showed to us is there's a whole segment of the population that we haven't been engaging with, because that's not reflected in the community makeup of our participants. So I've got a video here that I just want to show you. Hopefully. It should work. And while it's loading, it's, again, I mentioned it before, a video showcasing our state teams at the National Cricket Inclusion Championships that are in its second year now, held in Geelong. Now, I show that video, and the one I wanted to show was about 4 minutes long, which would have actually saved me a lot of talking and a lot of you listening to my grating voice. But I show that video because it's a small reflection of the work that's gone into a number of programs, but it showcases more the commitment of the WACA, of how we operate, to look at programs that we run, look at the state teams that represent WA, and recognise that a state team is a state team, whether it's the intellectual disability team, the deaf and hard of hearing WA team, or the blind and vision impaired team. They are a state team, they're state athletes, they're part of a pathway that provides opportunities to represent your country. When Justin Langer came and presented caps to two of our athletes, Boyd Duffield and Anthony Calamaris, what he said to them is, you're representing WA, you're a WA cricketer. You're no different from Maxi Klinger, who's standing in front of you. You've got the WA uniform on. And that's reflected in how we approach programs like this. We want to ensure that if it's a state team, they've got a high performance coach. They've got a link to our health and conditioning staff. They've got an opportunity to be valued as an athlete as opposed to recognised for their disability. So it comes with an investment, and it comes with a challenge of being prepared to display that leadership and say, we believe that this is what we should be doing because it's right, because people represent their state, represent their country, represent their community. They're part of a pathway, they're part of our sport, irrespective of where they come from or what their level of ability. And it goes back to the point I made at the beginning about doing this as part of a holistic plan. Unless you do that, you'll have wins, and we've had wins, but we've also had a lot of challenges. So some of my former team here, a lot of my colleagues, the last 2 or 3 years hasn't been easy. We haven't got it right some of the time, but we've also had a lot of wins. We know where we need to be going, and we know that if we view inclusion and diversity in terms of a holistic approach to club development, in terms of supporting clubs to connect with the community in which they are situated, to provide opportunities to showcase the skills, experiences, the talent that they've got around them, it'll be a lot more sustainable and a lot more effective than the WACA going out and running a program, or the WACA going out and delivering an activity. We got time for one more video, or I'll show you this last one because again it just reflects that approach to the WACA family, the one team approach where a state team is a state team. It's deserving of the same time, effort, energy and resources that we put into our elite athletes. And again, I say this with aspiration because we're not all the way there just yet, but we recognise where we need to get to and what that's going to take.
Yes, Mitch, I've been watching you with your blogs out of Dubai, and the one tip that I can give you, mate, is if you could actually try to be funny, would really help. But hopefully today I'll be able to give you a few tips on how to improve your blog. I'm in Alice Springs for the Indigenous Championships. It's great to be up here and be amongst all the young cricketers who have come here from all over the country to watch and to give on some advice that hopefully can make them better cricketers. Well, Dane, how's it been in Alice Springs?
It's been blooming hot, but very exciting. Some young talent on show, and yeah, really enjoying this one.
Well, Jake, you've played most of your cricket in Kalgoorlie over the last couple of years. How's the cricket going up there?
Yeah, cricket's going well. It's a great country sort of cricket vibe there. We've been going well, and there's hopefully a few Indigenous cricketers going to come through the system up there and hopefully come over here and represent WA and give it a good go through the pathways, hopefully.
Fantastic. have you got a little message you'd like to send the Australian cricket team?
Yeah, I just want to wish them all the best over in India. It's quite tough conditions over there, and yeah, I want to wish them all the best and try and get a series win from all the boys and girls over here. Yeah, wish us all good luck.
From Swampy, it's goodbye from Alice Springs. And Mitch, this is how you do a sign-off shot.
So I'm about to wrap up. Saw the sign. I just wanted to play that because, again, it points to the concept of leadership. We're very fortunate to have Chris supporting the work we do across not just game development, but in the inclusion and diversity space. The Aboriginal program that we run, that state team, is actually an example of what happens when we do get it right. You know, it's taken a long time, but we've got a program where it sits with high performance and game development as a shared accountability. It's a high performance coach. It's got the strength and conditioning team behind it. It's obviously got Jeff involved and excited about it. But equally our women's program, having access to really high quality coaches that are the same coaches that support the Fury, the Scorchers, and players that are entering the pathway at the state level. So that's really exciting for us. So I just wanted to finish with this, and it links a bit to what Rob said. And I know it's ironic because I've just had a PowerPoint on for the last 20 minutes, but for us it really is about the conversation, being able to sit down with people and talk about what their community needs, what does your club need, what are you trying to achieve, how can we help you do it. That is the beauty of inclusivity. It's the shared knowledge of a group, shared experiences and the shared skills. So thank you very much, and I hope I haven't taken up too much time.